Hi, good morning, everyone. Uh, First of all, thank you for inviting me to this session here. And congratulations, Tanya and the team, for the successful launch of your new product, and very excited for you guys. And also, in terms of just talking about AI, I think Abhishek and Kailash have set the stage today very nicely for me as well to kind of continue that conversation. Both of them gave a very good perspective in terms of why AI and why it's at a pivotal moment today. Let me just talk about, another aspect of that, which is the pace at which things are evolving today. And that's extremely important in today's context. And in terms of the pace at which things are evolving, and all of you are AI practitioners or founders or operators in some sense, so I'm sure you all are very deep into the field. So rather than kind of going into the technicalities of AI, I will kind of pull back and say, okay, the pace at which things are evolving today. And let me talk about three core aspects of pace, which will just give a context of this. I will just talk about the global context, what's happening globally. Secondly, I will talk about what's happening from an India context. And thirdly, I will talk about what's the guardrails. And I think somebody talked about when the session was just beginning, which is about responsible AI. AI can be used for bad things than good things. So how do you kind of focus on responsible and ethical AI and the governance associated with that? So I'll just talk about these three topics with the context of the pace to kind of just appreciate and also kind of hustle ourselves to the pace at which things are evolving. So from a global context, I'm sure all of you are kind of tracking some of this market, but just some data points to set this context is, I was just looking at some reports, just last year or just the last 1 or 2 years back, the investments or the spends from global companies on AI was roughly in the range of around $300 to $400 billion globally. Today, as per Gartner, in 2025, this number is 1.5 trillion. So we're talking about companies which are very careful about their spends, increasing their spends 5x in just the last 1 or 2 years. So definitely AI is not just important, urgent as well. The second number that I just want to throw from a global context is, all of us know of, some of the great names who are partners for this event as well, but one of the fundamental platform which is kind of powering the whole genesis and growth of AI are the chips. And I started my career at the chip industry, so it's kind of close to me. NVIDIA today is like a folklore. It's like a common name in every household. I'm sure many of you may know, but it's very surprising for many, many people. In 2022, the market cap of NVIDIA was $361 billion. And today, it's $5 trillion. This is almost like the third or fourth largest economy if you have to kind of compare it to a country. Now, of course, there is always some amount of hype and AI bubble aspect, so I'll kind of not get into that. But even if you discount some of that, it's a massive growth. It's more than a 10x growth in terms of the market cap of a company in just the last 3 years. So the pace at which things are evolving is just mind-blowing. And the last point from a global context I want to talk about is just from adoption. Companies which have been adopting AI within their organizations. There was a survey that was done last year by one of these big fours like Gartner and others. It was roughly around 50%. So 50% of the companies were actually using or experimenting with AI. And that's where a lot of experimental ARR was also kind of coming in. And today, apparently, that number is close to 80%. So clearly, from a global context, what we are seeing is, it's here and now. And it's not just here and now. We have to kind of jump in and accelerate the innovation that's happening. Now, let me switch to the India context. AI for Bharat. And, my good friends Abhishek and Kailash kind of talked about some of that. But essentially, we have a very unique opportunity and a problem. To some extent, we can see that some of the foundational platforms, be it the chips or the foundational models, have all evolved substantially in the global markets, predominantly in US and China. So if we look at from an India context, it does look like we are lagging behind. But also the silver lining is that we are lagging behind by a few years. All this evolution, of course, there's a lot of investment that has happened way in the past as well, but it's not something which is hard to catch as well. And there's a lot of capital that's also going in that segment. And just talking about capital, if we look at India in terms of all the early stage investments which have happened in the last 1 or 2 years, if you look at any of those numbers and if you kind of consolidate them, there are only 3 themes on which investments are happening, by and large. One is around consumer brands, where there's a lot of brand story which is building up in India. Secondly, there is a lot of talk around deep tech. And thirdly, around AI. And even deep tech, there is a component of AI there in terms of some of the foundational aspects as well. So there is substantial investment which is also going in that front. And I think it creates that hope and optimism in an investor like me that there is a lot of opportunity there. AI for Bharat is really about building, as Mr. Nandan Nilekani had said sometime, is building for population scale. It's really about building those applications and solutions in the context of India, which can also be scaled globally. And there are many examples which are coming up today. And also from an India market itself, again, I'm a very numbers guy. So if we look at India context, the AI market in India, in terms of the spends, it could be mostly global companies for whom they are spending, was roughly around $7-8 billion in the last 1 year or so. And it's kind of expected to grow to around $30 billion very soon. So there is a market as well which is evolving. But obviously when you're building for India, there is a certain nuance. You're also competing with global platforms which are probably offering the same solution. So building for population scale, building for India context, building for things where there is a real application and it's not AI for AI is a very important aspect. Now let me come to the third and last point of what I wanted to make, which is around responsible AI and the ethical AI. And I also saw in the agenda that later one of the panels has a lot of CISOs from organizations who are going to be talking about the responsible AI part and how responsible AI frameworks are very important. So as we kind of evolve in the country today, one of the core tenets is how do you build some of those guardrails, and how do you make sure that AI evolution is not really just limited to purely about growth at any scale, but really also about how do you keep ensuring that the responsibility aspect is also very, very critical. So with that, I will just conclude and say that it's time that it's not just about consuming AI. Let us not just be the people who are using ChatGPT, using Perplexity, but let's also be the people who are conscientious architects of AI for the future and AI for the next decade. With that, I'll just conclude it, and thank you very much.